This session is a little bit different. As you can see, it's less of a broadcast session and a little bit more you involved. So we've moved over to Google Meet. Please do be active in the chat. Get involved when opportunities arise, but I don't want to take up any extra time. So I want to start by saying a massive thank you to all of our speakers, everyone who's attending, and of course our event sponsors, Evolve L&D, L&D Free Spirit, and of course Little Man Project. Little Man Project is where Jill's from, and of course this is her session. So without further ado, let me get out of the way. Jill, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Tom. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming, and good afternoon. Just hit. So as Tom said, I'm Little Man Project, and for the last 14 years, I've been running Little Man Project. We're a bespoke e-learning development company based in Gloucestershire, and we specialise in developing e-learning for charities. So most of what we do is working with charities to find solutions to issues that they're having and resolve that with learning interventions. So here's my team. As you can see, we're quite small and cute. I think that this kind of, I use these pictures because I think they kind of sum us up. We really love what we do. I'd like to think that we're actually really good at it, but we also really care about the content that we produce, but also the kind of mission of our clients. And that's why we work in this space, because we're a very kind of ethics-driven organization. You will spot from this picture that I have the longest arm, which is I'm 6 foot, which is why I end up taking all the selfies. And I'm always the person in the picture who has the double chin, because I'm always at this weird angle. You'll also spot that we have a dog who comes in regularly. And she's very much part of the team. She's our therapy dog when we're stressed. So as well as developing e-learning, we also run a 12-month learning program, which is really kind of the idea is that we can take people from the very basic principles of learning design right through all of the different steps that we use as a supplier to develop e-learning. So it's very kind of based on our experiences and what we do. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on that. So in this session, what I want to do really is talk you through the process that we use to design e-learning. Now, my kind of focus, because that's what we do most of the time, is going to be on interactive e-learning. But obviously, what I'm going to talk about could be used for any type of kind of learning intervention. Now, on screen, you will see that we've got a source document, and you'll be very familiar. If you're an instructional designer, you'll be familiar with that kind of source document that you've been sent. Yours probably don't look as neat as this. This subject matter expert is, you know, amazing and sends us really clean and, you know, clear materials. But fundamentally, you know, at the beginning of a project, that's your starting point. And what I want to do is talk to you about how we take that dry source and turn that into something which is rich and interesting. Now, everyone has got their own process. Everyone will do that in you know, different ways. But we have a very specific approach that we use, and that's what I want to share with you. And I hope that that's something that you'll find useful and something that you can kind of think about in your own practice. So we work on the kind of basis that we are better together. We are better as developers, as designers, if we're working with other people, because we believe that, you know, no one is amazing at everything and everybody brings different perspectives. And so this quote really kind of sums up what we think. Now, a little bit of a side note for those of you who are very observant. I have noticed over the last few years, particularly when we've been kind of developing e-learning unlocked, that thought leaders love to have their picture taken with books behind them. But you will note, if you look close enough, that either he has the most organized bookshelf in the world, or he's actually in a library. So my dream, my kind of imagination is that he actually has an office that's just like Tom's, that's full of really cool stuff, but his publisher thought, do you know what, we're going to take him to get some books behind him because that will be more on brand. So yeah, if you want to Google any of your thought leaders, they'll have some books behind them. So I digress. So it's kind of, the principle is that 2 heads are better than 1. And in our case, we are often on 3 or 4 heads. But why do we do this? Why have we come to this point? What does the research tell us why this works so well? So I've looked at lots of different research. I've heard some great talks on this, but I just kind of want to kind of pull out what, some key areas. So the first one is that you will get more ideas by working with others, by collaborating with others. You will get more ideas than you would have done if you'd just been on your own. And that's part of the human existence in terms of how we like to collaborate and share and bounce ideas. It's also really good for the people involved. And, as the boss, it's really important to me that I am, developing people, that they're having fun, that they're enjoying that process. But also when we're doing these collaborative sessions, it filters into the rest of the culture within our own organization, because we will then, we've kind of established our rules for collaboration, and then we get really good at doing that in other ways, and the research backs that up. It's also, you'll get more creative solutions, and that's really about more ideas, more, you're extending the way that you're thinking, you're being more creative. One of the things that we find is that one of us will come up with an idea and another person will pitch in and they'll enhance that idea, but then someone else might say, well, actually, based on that, I've had another idea which is taking us off in a complete different tangent. I mean, you know how brainstorming works, but imagine that in the context of designing e-learning. And fundamentally, you just get more innovation by doing it this way. Now, I'm going to kind of I'm always going to be sitting on the fence on 2 different perspectives. I think it really works, but you might be sitting there and thinking, but do you not get kind of repeat thinking? You work together all the time. Do you not have moments where you're thinking, yeah, but we've had this idea before? Yes, absolutely. And so there are absolutely other ways, as any instructional designer would have, where we're thinking about how we can come up with new ideas and bring those into our sessions. So that kind of outside continual review, coming to events like this, that's always happening. But what we're doing is, by doing that, we're multiplying those ideas that are coming in, because everybody's doing that and then they're bringing those in. So that still helps us to not just completely continue to repeat the same ideas and the same ways of doing things. What I wanted to do, though, is actually say that fundamentally it's more fun, it's more enjoyable. I made up that stat, I'm sorry, but the point is that by coming together, we take our shoes off, we get a coffee, we bring the dog in, we are having more fun, and more fun means better experience for people, but also better outcomes. I truly believe better outcomes. So if you're building e-learning, if you're in any kind of design process, you'll recognize this process here. You've got this kind of standard approach that people would take. I think probably where we're slightly different is what we're doing in that design phase. So we're still starting off with that kickoff meeting with our stakeholders, to really kind of dig down what they need to achieve. We work with them to produce the source. Maybe that's slightly different. Maybe you're doing source first. We're a big believer that source comes after that initial meeting. What we want them to do is produce source that's based on that discussion, not based on the topic, not based on the thing that they think that they want to provide, but actually based on that good quality conversation around the goal. And then we go into our design phase, and that's the bit I'm going to focus on. So I kind of touched on that. Lots of you will be familiar with Kathy Moore's action mapping process. And for us, that meeting with that stakeholder group, that's very much about establishing that goal. I truly, truly believe that you cannot produce good e-learning that creates change if you're not focused on your goal in the middle. If you just produce a course on X topic, then you're just ticking that box. If you've got that goal at the center, but I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir. The point is that is very much a starting initial point of our discussions as a team, because we're coming to that meeting with that goal. We know that goal because we've already established it. The next thing we'll do is research. Now, that research will be on the topic, it'll be on the audience, it'll be on the visuals. And if we're building something that's on brand, i.e. part of a cultural, a corporate brand, then the brand element will be inside as well. But if it's just around the topic, this module, we're lucky enough to do quite a lot of work modules we're creating for children. So this was a mood board that my colleague Jennifer Compton produced, which was the mood board for a module we were creating for children on trauma and their experiences. And so for those types of modules, we can be very creative and free with our design. And this is a starting point for us where we'll create a mood board to support that. If we need to have, to utilize that within more of a brand element, then we'll bring into the design session the brand elements as well, so that we know what we're working within. Whereas this one was much more of a kind of a creative freedom. So I've got a video of a design session. It's taken with a 100-year-old GoPro, so the quality is not amazing. And I've also sped it up because nobody wants to watch someone else spend 2 hours designing something. So if you do find it a little bit jarring, then you might want to look away. It's only 40 seconds, and I'm going to just talk you through what's happening. So if you do look away, you'll be fine. So this is the design room that we use. We've got a dedicated room. Where the camera is based, you can't see, but it's got all the facilities that we need. All the whiteboards are fixed to the wall. And you will see that it's a very physical activity. So the stuff on the table is what we've already used to discuss the module. We had the plasma screen on. We don't usually have the plasma screen on, but we had it on because the client had changed brand recently. And what we needed to do was make sure that that our discussions were centered around the new brand. So we did a complete deep dive into the new brand first. But normally that's not there. It's all about back and forth between just hand sketching, hand drawing, all of the elements that we're talking about. And then the drawing becomes our conversation. I think that's really probably the point of where I want to go with this. Our conversation is centered around what's being drawn. So people will take the pen off you. They will, kind of come away and draw new things. And the idea is that you are building on the ideas of others. You have that fluidity in your design process because, you might start to draw something and then someone will start to draw something next to you and you'll say, actually, I prefer that. And it's this simple act of wiping it and moving on to their design. And so what you tend to get is a kind of a mishmash all over the place. I think the other, I'm doing my pros and cons. I'm answering some of your potential questions. And one of those questions is probably, I'm terrible at drawing. And I would argue, I'm probably the worst in the office, but I would argue that actually adds to the creative process. It doesn't take away from it. And I have absolute examples when I have drawn something and a colleague has looked at it and completely misunderstood what my drawing was and has come up with something better. They have built on my poor drawing and created something that was better. So I think that, don't be concerned by that. A person is just a circle on a triangle. That's all you need. It's about the conversation that you're having, not the quality of the drawing that comes through. What you're doing is you're drawing and talking the whole way through. And that's the conversation. That's the design, the sort of process that you're having together. So some examples, it's really hard to take a picture of a whiteboard with it's white and it doesn't come through, but I hope you can get kind of a sense from this. It can look very messy. You can see there's some drawings in here that are quite good. They are not mine. Anything that looks absolutely atrocious, that will definitely be mine. The one with post-it notes, that's actually a scenario-based one that we did, a branching scenario. And so the original discussion centered very much around where are we going, like what's the journey and what decisions do people make? And then we went into that design process. I know that Tom, if you don't mind popping something in the chat, I know that Tom uses a tool to do this, which for us would be the next stage after this. I've seen it, it's great. I think it really, really works. But his tool is for, thank you, Tom. His tool is for building on this and then taking that forward so that you've almost got kind of a prototype, a working prototype of that scenario. But for us, it's all about that ability to pick up the post-it note and move it and change the line and actually kind of just dynamically proof that process as you go through. And so, yeah, that's our starting point. Some of you might be interested to know how we do this remotely. The answer is we don't like to, but clearly lockdown changed everything and we had to. This is what they looked like in lockdown. The resulting module from this was amazing. Absolutely loved it. It was a kind of a fake game show where we had a very cheesy host who took you through lots of different activities. It was kind of like a Saturday Night Live situation. The reason that there are photos in there is that we had a much younger developer on the call with us, and he didn't get half of our references to things like blankety blank. So we had to pop pictures in. I think the thing I would say about the remote nature, sometimes you have to do that. That's we're not all in the office anymore. So sometimes you will have to do it. I think the key thing for me and where we get the power is all about that physicality of being creative. It's about the drawing, it's about the sharing, it's about making new connections. And I personally struggle doing that digitally. I think it's also, it's very easy to just bring in new pictures. Just go, we could do this, we could do this. And I think that's slightly for me where it falls down is when you don't have that physical aspect. So it's not to say, obviously, if that's your reality in terms of the ways of working, then I'm sure you'll make a go of it. But for us, it really is about that coming together, that drawing together. So my next consciousness is that you're probably saying, I can't do this, I don't have a team, or certainly in my experience with the charities that we work with, it's quite unusual. So I kind of just want to pitch to you some solutions. So one thing that we do is we will get our subject matter experts involved. And you will know that some subject matter experts are going to be better at this than others. Some really get on board, some really enjoy it, some become really immersed in the experience, some struggle. So if that's possible and you feel like you've got an expert who has some kind of creative flair, who can get involved, then they are a great person. The big thing that comes up when you're designing anything is the questions that you'll ask that you don't know the answer to. So we were doing one and we weren't entirely sure the age range of the children involved, because the client hadn't been massively clear when we'd had that conversation. If we had them in the room, we could have had that engaged conversation with them. Yes, having them there, if they are that you can be and are willing to be involved, then they are by far my favorite people to involve in that process, if you believe that they will come with you on that journey. Another thing that you can do is, if you really need to do it on your own because of time and kind of physical restrictions, one of the things that we'll do, if that's had to happen, is that I had to do one recently just because we had people on leave. I designed it in the same way, but on my own. And then I drew it all up, and then I laid it out. And then I got members of the team, when they were back from leave, I talked them through it. And whenever we've done this, new ideas have come out. So I will say, well, we'll do this. And they'd be like, well, what if you did this instead? So that is very beneficial still. Rope a friend in, maybe a takeaway, and a bottle of Prosecco will entice some of your creative friends into doing this with you. But, we're in a community right now, maybe put in the chat if you're interested in doing this and having a go with someone else after I've hopefully told you how great it is, then, maybe this is your chance to have a go with somebody. Maybe in the workplace, you could ask a colleague, you could do a kind of a time exchange. So, if you were willing to support them in a task that they were doing, then maybe they'd help, you by doing kind of exchanging time with you for this. And finally, we've all got kind of our community of practice on LinkedIn. So, maybe if you talked about the concept, they might be, you might find other volunteers. I'm thinking particularly around freelancers who might be willing to say, well, I'll jump on yours about X if you'll jump on mine about Y. So we do have some rules, and I've probably touched on some of them. The point is it's about standing up. It's about picking up the pen. It's about getting involved. It's about being very respectful of other people's ideas and listening. And that can be difficult. People can get really passionate about an idea and find it difficult to navigate away from that idea. So, we have these rules in place to kind of just remind people and, kind of respectfully, just kind of say, okay, but this, but then, like can kind of navigate through as you would do in a kind of a grown-up conversation. But these rules are really about understanding that these things happen. And this is all based on our experiences of running these types of sessions with each other, but also with clients. I suppose the last one I wanted to kind of mention was, you do have to kind of go a little bit back to being a child, and you have to be prepared to say things that other people might laugh at. Now, when you do this for a while, you learn never to laugh, because the craziest of ideas are the ones that often are the best, or will morph into something that's great. So, creating a safe space where people can be their, most creative, can come up with crazy ideas, that's when you'll get the real power. So as a result of those design sessions and, those weird, crazy sketches, which as a group, you will remember and be able to kind of navigate that module, you won't on Monday when you come back in the office after your fun Friday session, not Saturday, Friday. So what we do is we take photographs of all of the designs, both as a group, because that's our memory kick. By looking at it as a whole, we remember the emotions and the story, but we then take individual pictures and we try and take those in order. And we'll also create design sheets where we will sketch up a kind of a neater version of the drawings. And then you can see that it's kind of a free-for-all on the notes. We have different things you can fill in, but it's really just about kind of clarifying what's going to be required on those screens. I like a tangent. Side note, that is a cat in a backpack. Don't ever do that. Okay, that module was all about not putting cats in backpacks. Don't do it. There you go. Creative and e-learning. So this is then the point in which we will take that content and turn that into something for the client. And so for us, that's a module outline, which is then accompanied by a prototype. So yeah, the point is that we've gone from we've no idea what to do, or we've got some ideas, but we're not really sure, to having a fully formed design for every single image slide in the module, which we then recorded, that we then will put that into an outline, which is then for the client. And then once you get to your actual build, when you're sitting in front of your authoring tool, you're not designing on the fly. You have all the answers and you have feedback on it already. So in terms of the process, 100%, I would say this about any instructional design process: always start with your goal. Work with or find people that you can design with. Create a space that facilitates that. Now, that might be, if you're working at home, that might be moving from the office to the dining room table, but it's about the new space. It's about, whiteboards. Even, we've bought some very small whiteboards that we use as well. It's about that creative expression, but with that ability to wipe and change and start again, rather than paper, which will give you a very different outcome. And then don't forget to record your outputs, because the best design session in the world will fail miserably if you can't remember what the picture was in the end. And that's me. If you are interested in e-learning development, then we have a podcast. The details are there. I don't think we have any time for questions. I'm very sorry. I'm usually over, so I'm feeling pretty proud of myself to have just come under. And if you'd like to get in touch, those are my contact details. Pick me up on LinkedIn, best place.
Fantastic, Jill. Thank you so much. And you're bang on time. Look at that. Fantastic stuff. This is all going very smoothly. No pressure to the presenters this afternoon, but so far everyone bang on time.
Very unlikely.
It's all right. It's all about putting in the effort, isn't it, with these things? I got up before 11 o'clock today. That's very unlike me. So we're all out of our usuals. So thank you all so much for joining this session. I totally forgot at the end of the last one to say this one was switching over to Google. We do have another one like that at the end of the day. The 4 o'clock session with Joe Cook is going to be on Google as well. So when that pops up, don't panic. If you do have any questions that you'd like us to pick up, obviously feel free to reach out directly to Jill via the details on the screen, or of course, drop them in the comments of this video, which will be live in a couple of hours' time over on the YouTube channel, and we will get back to you there. Thank you all so much for joining us. We do now have our break. Our next session is at 2 o'clock with the wonderful Kim, who'll be talking about freelancing versus consulting versus contracting, which is really interesting if it's something you're considering or are perhaps already in the world of. And we'll see you all again soon.
Thank you.